annual conference report. The religious leaders waffled. Why don't you give us a clue about who you are and a hint of what's going on? When we see what's up, we'll commit ourselves. Show us what you can do. Oh, wait a minute, that was the text. We had a great week at the conference. For me, highlights, of course, getting transferred in, and then Dad's memorial service. Thursday was a pretty emotional day for my family. But there are other things too, like the Friday evening ordination service after the candidates were ordained, and we have 4 ordained elders and 1 ordained deacon this year. 4. How many retirements? 20 something. And we had 1 deacon commissioned, which that means that's a person that will be ordained hopefully in a couple of years after they serve for a couple of years and go through the process again with the Board of Ordained Ministry. We had 1 deacon commissioned and 0 elders commissioned. We have some work to do to provide pastoral leadership for our congregation. But after they were ordained, as frightful as that was, and as challenging as that was, after they were ordained, the bishop washed their feet. That's not been done before. We have a bishop who is a true person of God, a very humble servant, and that's exciting news. And once her presence begins to permeate the conference, I think those 0 and 4 numbers will change. At the end of the ordination service in this conference, they have an altar call. It always struck me odd that coming from North Carolina, where an altar call on Sunday morning is kind of expected, they don't do it at the annual conference. But here, where an altar call would be all going, what's he doing? They have one at annual conference. I don't even, that just strikes me funny. But at the altar call, it's for those who feel a call to ministry. And last year, my first experience of that, Bishop Keaton was quite adamant that people come down, and if you did, and this year, Bishop Kesey, who's, I'm sure it's new to her, kind of made an appeal, and it didn't really, it was, and a lot of people came down, so it really doesn't matter what we say, it just matters how the Spirit moves. And one of those people that came down is sitting right over here, and that's Paul Reitzman, who is now seriously pursuing candidacy in the United Methodist Church. We're glad to have him on board. If you haven't heard the news, we did bring Paul back on staff starting a couple weeks ago. He's been busy at work. We are going to employ him as a liaison to the youth of the community. We've hired him as a youth director so that we can reach out to the youth in our community that don't know us and we don't know them, so that they might come into relationship with Christ as well, or so that we can make our community a better place to live. You might have heard "so that" a couple times in there. Yesterday, Love Weems spoke to us. Love Weems kind of talks like that. He reminds me a lot of Fred Cross. squeaky voice, and that's why it reached so far. But Lovett taught us to use two words together in doing church that we're going to use a lot around here. So you get used to it. And the words are so that. That doesn't sound like much, does it? But when you start to apply so that, it's amazing the transformation it takes. We are having bread and water for communion today so that we can have bread and water. No, that's not why we're doing it. We're having bread and water for communion today so that symbolically it brings us into understanding of those for whom bread and water is their existence. So that we understand the plight of the poor and the homeless a little better. So that we find ways to reach out to them so that they might know the love of Christ. See, when you start doing so that, it brings you away from silly reasons into good reasons to do things. It helps you understand why. We know that why we do something is more important than what we do, but sometimes it's hard to know what the why is. And so that is a tool to get us to the why. We have Bible school so that our kids can have Bible school. Oh, no, that's not. We have Bible school so that we can provide an education in Christian learning for our kids and for the kids of the community, so that others might know about what church is and who Jesus is, so that they also might know the love of God. We're going to talk about so that all the time. You're going to get sick of it. But any time, and don't get offended if you say we ought to have a car wash so that, and be ready to have a so that, be ready to have an answer. And it's going to be like that 3-year-old that keeps going, why? Why? Doesn't that drive you crazy? Well, we're going to drive you crazy. Because we're going to know why we're doing something. And the way we get there is by just saying so that, we're going to do this so that this happens, so that that happens. It's a good exercise that Love taught us yesterday. We've been using it already in Vital Church Initiative. Benton, when he taught the class two months ago, remember that, Pam? He just kept doing so that all the time. It was driving us crazy because we kept having to think. You give a good answer. Oh, that's my answer. So that. Now we got to think. It will help us define who we are. As we act out, as we work out whose we are, as Christ's disciples. It will give us purpose and direction, and those are always good things to have when you're going to be involved in something. It's nice to know what the finished product is you expected. If you're going to build somebody a house, you just go buy a bunch of lumber and woods and nails, and you just start. Well, we'll start with this wall, and I'm not sure how high it's going to be, but then we'll add something else over. You kind of have a plan, don't you? It's good to have a concept of what you expect the end product to look like before you start building something. And it's the same in the ministries of the church. It's a good idea to have a concept of what you expect it to look like when you're done, or what result you expect before you start. because that helps guide and plan everything that goes into it. So we're going to practice that. We already do that in worship team. When we pick out a hymn, it's not just because it was pretty. Because it has to answer at least one so that we get people thinking about this. So that's how it comes together. There were a lot of high points this week. Some not so high. You remember I told you about how clergy are like manure, and you put them all in one spot, they kind of stink. There was at one point when we started debating about how we should debate. And I had to go to Cokesbury for a while. That was just too much. And I don't need to put Sharon or Pam on the spot, but you know, anything you want to share? Yeah. Okay. You want to come up here, Deb?
Yes. Probably, yes.
Okay, yeah, that way people can hear you. And Sharon, you do as well. I think one of the high points for me, because Sharon was first time this year, and you always wonder how that's going to go. And when everything was all said and done, everybody was gone, and Sharon was still standing there, looking at the stage, and Rod said, I think we're going to have to drag her out of here. I knew that the conference had gone pretty well.
I brought props.
Oh, props.
Information. Of course I went to Cokesbury, and of course I bought about a dozen books. But I've got lots of notes from legislation and from speakers. And they have this little purple thing that was handed out as we went into the last session with Levitt Weems. It says, my so that commitment. What are you willing to commit to do so that something might change? It says it'll be collected during worship, and they didn't. I'm thankful about that. Then it says, I will, blank, so that blank will happen. And Pastor Ron has gone into some depth about what, so that will be part of our lives. And it did get kind of irritating after a while, but man, it makes you question why you do things. And is there a real purpose? Is that thing that we're doing, we've always done, is that really the best use of those particular resources? Oh, I got this t-shirt. Now,
my t-shirt.
oh. Now, not everybody has one of these t-shirts. I got this t-shirt because of Paul. He had one, and I said, how do I get that? So I went over and asked at the Goodberry table. We all mourned the loss of Mark, which was our conference way of getting resources for study. Well, Goodberry's the new Mark. It's also called the Netflix version of Mark, because you get a subscription and then you can get CDs and DVDs and books, and for children, for youth, for adults, for any group, and they're on loan. You can get a personal subscription, a church subscription, a long-term subscription, all kinds of different flavors. So that's why, and they gave me this t-shirt. And I said I'd wear it today and talk about it. Finally, I got this water bottle. It says, Disciples Made in Michigan. West Michigan Annual Conference of the United Methodist Church. And we are disciples made in Michigan, every single one of us. And we need to go out and make new disciples for the transformation of the world. It's all about conference. It's all about new thoughts and new ideas, confirming old thoughts, maybe sometimes changing some old thoughts. It's also about relationships, and I met new people, and I renewed old relationships, and I deepened relationships that I'd had a while. That comes from sharing thoughts and ideas. It also comes from sharing shampoo and toothpaste and makeup. This Mary Kay lady forgot her makeup. And thanks to Sharon, because we traded back and forth those items. This also is a water bottle because you come away from annual conference refreshed. You've received communion numerous times, quickly and efficiently and with love and with deep thought. And Jesus promised us water so that we would never thirst, and that's what the symbol, this bottle represents to me as well. And I went as a equalization member of the district at no cost to the church except for what we pay to the district and our ministry shares. But I'm so glad that I was able to go, and I thank you and I thank the district. And I thank God.
Sharon, she's still speechless. Moses fed our ancestors with bread in the desert. It says so in the scriptures. He gave the bread from heaven to eat. That's what the religious people wanted. And Jesus said, the real point of that scripture isn't about Moses giving you bread, but that God right now is offering you bread from heaven. Right now, God is offering you bread from heaven. And he's giving life to the world. And we say, well, we want some of that. Where is it? And Jesus said, I am. Like my t-shirt almost said. But yeah. Wesley Foundation with these wonderful t-shirts. It says, I am across the front. So I got to have that for Sunday mornings. I am the bread of life. When we come to the altar, when we come to be fed, we come for those things that give us life, for bread and water. Enough to sustain your body. And yet this bread and water is so much more life-giving. Like Moses who fed those in the wilderness with bread from heaven, given to him by God, so Jesus feeds us with his own body, given to us by God. We eat food to fuel our physical bodies. We eat this to fuel our spiritual bodies. Because they get tired too. Just like our physical bodies. Our spiritual selves get battered and bent and shaped and discouraged and worn down by all the craziness of the world. And for that we need the bread of life. And when we thirst, and we thirst for peace and justice, we thirst for equity, we thirst for harmony. We thirst for an end to prejudice and hatred. All the things they bring evil to our society. Jesus gives us life-giving water to feed our souls. Lord, we come before you as your people. Feed us this day. Feed us with these gifts of bread and water. Make them be for us the body and blood of Christ. so that redeemed by that blood we might be his body for our community and for the world around. That we might be agents of peace, agents of justice. That we might work in our communities and throughout our country and our world. That peace might come. That justice might be known. In a world where so much injustice happens. And a world constantly at war. Bless us this day. Fill us with yourself, Lord, as we come. Amen.